Hey there guys, it's Salis, and I gotta ask the question, why break what isn't fixed? The current generation of gaming, as dictated by console numbers such as PS4, Xbox, actually forget that last one, that just confuses the issue, has been a generation of remakes, remasters, and retards. So many games have come out on the new consoles that are remakes, and sadly the PC gaming master race has not been able to avoid the taint of this trend, with games like Gears of War, Dishonored, Darksiders 2, Ratchet & Clank, and the entire Halo and Borderlands series getting remakes and re-releases. It's basically devalued the current console generation, when most of the games being remade are available cheaper on the last generation, and as I said, it's set a precedent for developers to make remakes rather than shiny new games. Even on the PC, such games as Hard Reset, Grim Fandango, Day of the Tentacle, and Fahrenheit, aka Indigo Prophecy, have all been remade. And the last one is the one I use when discussing the scourge of remakes, because I believe it was Yahtzee Croshaw who once said, in order for something to be remastered, it had to be mastered in the first place. Because Fahrenheit was buggy and generally overall shit back when it was launched, and the remaster has just added new different bugs and bullshit on top of the ones it already had. In some cases I can understand, in a cynical kind of way, why some games will get a re-release. In the case of the Rare Replay collection, for example, it serves as an archive of sorts, albeit a temporary one considering the Xbox 2 is probably not going to have backwards compatibility. Although it did give me time to flex my platformer muscles ahead of the launch of Yooka-Laylee. Yay. And Ratchet & Clank was technically a movie tie-in, but let's face it, it only got a remake because you can't play any of the old games on the PS4 due to a total absence of backwards compatibility. So any new fans from the movie would have to play the games on PS2 and PS3, which would mean buying used, because the games industry loves nothing more than getting rid of its entire history every 6 months, and thus making the developers and publishers no more precious money. And yes, the remakes of Grim Fandango and Day of the Tentacle were mostly to get the license away from the dark evil tentacles of the Disney Corporation and back in the hands of Tim Schafer, as well as make them run easier on modern systems. But the point there is, the PC is where these games came from, and on PC, there are ways to get those games to work, albeit with a little bit of effort. But, as a cynic would point out, they just wanted to put the games on console so they can milk the console market too with these games, fantastic though they are. There's a reason there are nutcases like me who don't trade in their old stuff for new gear. I still have 2 PS3s, an Xbox 360, I still even have my Wii, even though the Wii U is backwards compatible, but not with GameCube. Because the idea of archival is an alien concept to the games industry, especially when they can just polish their turds and some prats will still shell out for it. I once read, I can't remember where, that the reason so many games were getting remade on console was that publishers had seen the wars over which system was going to be the best, PS4, and totally lost confidence that anyone would buy either one. And after initial sales for the Xbox One tanked, this was only further reinforced. So the old bastards who hold the purse strings decided to sit on their money like Smorg and his gold, only throwing out the odd copper that was covered in dragon shit already to polish up some old crap and throw it to the public. And it's this fear of ever losing a single penny that has driven the games industry into the revisionist oblivion we are all soaking in. The idea of taking risk scares publishers to their very core. So these billionaire tosspots at the top don't want to make anything new to make the most of what's available to them. And personally, I would love it if all publishers agreed, and by agreed I mean sign a legally binding contract so they can't just dick each other over by all lying except for that one person who trusted them all. And I want them to agree that the next game they release will be an entirely new IP. But that's kind of like asking someone to bring me the moon on toast these days. But the fuckery of remakes is a double-ended dildo. Yes, you don't need to spend as much money, but you might not make as much money. Because most of these games were released only a few years ago, and it will just get a response from gamers along the lines of, meh, already finished it. So does that sound like the response of someone willing to drop 50 quid on it to you? Does it, big hairy bollocks? The fact is, I'm sure somewhere you keep a few tamed creative people who can come up with new ideas. Now, you don't have to be Peter Molyneux, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, you just need to make new things. And, by the way, new things does not mean franchises with an ever-increasing number on the end. We humans have the capacity to come up with some amazingly creative ideas. So, I have only one thing to say on that statement. Let those who think dream. But what do you guys all think? Does this remake culture help or hinder gaming as a creative medium? Did any of you want any of this? I look forward to your replies, so until we speak again, I've been Salis. The remake of this editorial will be out in 3 weeks, and I will see you next time.